5 o'clock, so let's call a meeting to order.
I don't know, I broke them.
The agenda setting meeting for Tuesday, February 6th. We'll jump right into agenda setting business. Staff appearances, Jen?
Yeah,
She
Jen,
can't be here, but she gave me this in her stead. The winter reading program ends today. We'll be announcing the winners tomorrow. We had a great numbers for sign up and a very decent turnout for the programs. We continue to host 321 Art Studio until the beginning of April. A lot of great feedback and lots of participation. We were also made aware that 321 Art Studio received a grant. We'll be using it to do a mural for the children's room. The mural is expected to be completed in August, and we'll host a grand reveal for the public. I'm going to add too, I walked through there the other day when they had that painting thing in session. Couldn't believe the numbers of people that came. They looked like they were having a good time. Library staff attended the summer reading kickoff last Friday, hosted by Arrowhead Library System. I learned a lot and was great to network with other libraries. We're starting our planning for the summer reading program and are excited to provide this for the area youth again. And they're staying busy with weeding, inventory, and the annual report. So it is our back end busy time of the year, but we're enjoying continuing our updates for the community. That is all.
All right, thanks. We'll jump into the city attorney. Have you got anything?
I was not given anything from Mr. Carney to address, so no, Mayor, I
I
don't.
had a couple of things, but I talked to Mike downstairs. So
Okay,
one
great.
is that property and a couple of closures on property. Taking care of them Monday, I guess.
So it must have been some face-off between the town of White and the city of Aurora for scheduling with the Super Tuesday.
Right.
correct.
We usually hold our meetings on Tuesday and they hold theirs Thursday, but we had to move hours.
Right, yeah. So, happy to fill in,
Fabulous.
but no, I don't have anything
All right, thank you.
to bring up.
Josh?
Yeah. So I provided an update in the packet, just kind of walk through that. So the big thing is obviously West Industrial Park. So our geotechnical piece of it, investigation is complete. So that's just drilling the soils to figure out what we're working with out there for material. Primarily glacial tills, so lean clays and sands and glacial outwash. So that's like a silty, dense sand. So we had some pretty good blow counts. I mean, it should be good material to build with. Could be worse, could be better. We did find some bedrock on the northwest edge. So it'd be generally that map I provided where our new road is going to tie into MnDOT's. There's some shallow bedrock there, and then the southeast edge, kind of the southeast corner of the building. There's some shallower bedrock. What we're thinking for a finished floor on the building, we should be well above the bedrock, so no major concern there. Where it would play is utilities potentially need some rock excavation to get those utilities in. So the big thing to probably talk through is the limited phase 2 environmental site assessment. So we were talking before the meeting a little bit. They did identify some vapor concentrations, so it'd be along the railroad corridor on the north end. That was the only location they found it. None of the other drilling across the entire site, whether it was the phase 2 drilling or the boring for the soils, found anything. So it's just vapor was detected on the north end along the railroad corridor. So they found presence of benzene, which is found in crude oil, gasoline, and then tetrachloroethylene, TCE, which is like a parts cleaner. So very likely associated with railroad use. The next steps, working with city staff, but would be to report it to the MPCA duty officer, enroll it in that Brownsfield program. It does become kind of an official contamination site. So if you go in the MPCA's what's in my neighborhood, it's going to show up as a site now. So, but the big thing here is doing that, it absolves the city of liability. So you didn't create the mess, you're not going to be responsible. Any long-term lawsuits or something like that if someone were to get sick or anything like that. So, action plan required. So the big thing likely wouldn't be required to go locate the source. So that was the thing, they couldn't find what is the source. We think it's the railroad, but there's, there could be a barrel buried somewhere of gasoline or something like that. Not likely, but certainly could be. But the big thing coming out of it, since it's just vapor, it's vapor barriers required on any structure out there. So, spec building site. I guess any questions relative to the phase 2? Okay. Likely some additional investigation costs. Still trying to figure out with our sub-consultant NTS on what that would be. Just to get it enrolled in the program, there's some paperwork that comes along with that. So, probably more of an inconvenience than a major roadblock. So. Spec building site, so I did share a drawing that shows kind of the schematic. So the original building will be 30,000 square feet, give or take. So the truck access is on the west side. So there's some loading docks there. Trucks can pull in and then do their alley back in. And then on the east side would be the employee entrance, employee parking, that type of stuff. Setting it up for future expansion. Generally, the project team is leaning towards grading the whole pad for a phase 2 and potentially even phase 3 development, just so if we get that right business that would come, we could make that work. Same thing, just kind of ghost plotting that parking that would go along with it as well. So we are at a point where we have some detailed preliminary designs that'll be routed through staff and IRRR just to get full buy-in on this concept. There's more detailed drawings than this, obviously, before we go full steam ahead into detailed final design. So, but overall, still on track to break ground this spring on that building site. So, roadway. So we are through the preliminary design as well. So kind of how you see the roadway laid out is generally pending some big environmental outcome. How that will lay out as well. You see the pond location, so we have a regional pond on the south end, and then looking at putting another treatment pond in that existing wetland just north of the stockpile. So that wetland is what I would call incidental. We haven't delineated anything, haven't talked to the Corps yet, but it looks to be man-made, so we can go fill it in, dig it out, whatever we need to do without having to mitigate that. So you still have to permit it, but you don't have to buy credits. So. But doing the regional pond on the south end, I like to do regional ponds where I can. Instead of doing 8 ponds across the site, let's just do one big one wherever we can. But knowing that that's highway frontage, the trailhead pond that we have it labeled helps just reduce the size on the south end. So knowing that that's higher valuable property, let's pick off some of the drainage on the north end. It's gonna help keep pipe sizes down and keep that pond on the south end smaller. So. We do show kind of the rerouted trail. I would say that is probably incorrect. It's right in concept, but generally it's probably going to go up the east side of the stockpile down and then along the west side of the Blue Cross building property. So
Yeah, because you've got a wetlands issue in here.
yeah. It just is not a good route. So.
Looks good on paper, but it ain't gonna work.
Yep, exactly. So. Anything on the industrial park that council would be interested in hearing more about?
Are they gonna start logging pretty soon?
That's the plan. Yep. So we're finalizing the logging limits, and so we'll go stake. Honestly, we'll probably just tie ribbon on the limits if you go out there now. I think there's even some ribbon out there already. But they have to be cut by the end of the month, so they don't have to be cleaned up. They just got to be dropped.
Okay.
So. And I think Luke's on. Maybe Luke, you can chime in. I think we have a meeting scheduled with the loggers next week.
He's not logged on.
Oh.
That's me.
Oh.
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, are you on there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh,
Yep.
somehow he's on there.
So we do have a meeting next week with the logger, and we will line all of that up. So there's some logging possibly to do south of the road, which we'll be talking about later with this parcel purchase as well. And there's also some logging to do for the water plant. So there's a lot of cutting that's got to go on here in the next week or two. But with the logger that we have and the gear that he's got, we're not really too worried about it. Probably just take him a couple days.
question. West Third Avenue Alley project, so no major updates since we last talked. It's looking like that'll be a 2025 project, just based on, we'll be applying for the infrastructure grant through the IRRR, in July. So that's when that program rolls over into the next fiscal year, so it'll be one of the first projects to apply. So hoping to be successful in that application. West First Avenue reconstruct, so we should know by the end of the month on that LRIP application. We asked for $1.5 million. Usually it's pretty typical that they do full or no award. It's very rare they do like a partial. So we should know on that. That is tentatively a 2025 project as well, pending funding through LRIP. We did get it on the PPL application for the Clean Water Drinking Fund, so that's for the sanitary sewer. Knowing with the big water plant projects and the wastewater project, we're gonna encumber some debt. Just trying to make sure we're in front of any opportunity to get some grant dollars through PFA. So that application went in last Friday was the deadline, so we're on the PPL for that. We did get listed last year for the water MDH PPL. Since we're in design, we can get, they call it certified plans, which basically says our we're ready to go. So what that does, it just puts you in a higher position on the list. So all about just getting things is prepared for funding as we can. So doing everything we can for this project. CDBG, I believe it was the first February meeting, council authorized design on that project. So that's the crack repair on Central. I would say we're at a 90% plan phase on that. So primarily just pavement patches. So since the estimated construction cost is under the statutory $175,000, we can just do direct quotes from contractors, so we won't have to publicly bid it. So we are waiting on confirmation from St. Louis County. They go through an environmental process since it's federal dollars. Once we get that authorization, we can get those quotes. So Pine Grove parking lot. So it is on my list to reach out to Misabi since I'm anticipating in early spring, just to see what they're thinking for construction. I'd like to wait until May. I don't want it to be the first thing out of the chute, but just want to make sure we're communicating. The Stormwater Resilience Grant, this one's been kind of hanging out there in purgatory. We did get some information back to the MPCA grant administrator, so I would anticipate we'd see that grant agreement this month to begin that. So that was a citywide stormwater management plan that was covered through the grant program through the MPCA. Wastewater treatment facilities. So we did do our CMAR interviews last week, and so the selection committee ultimately went with Magni Construction, who's doing the water treatment plan as well. They presented really well. Rice Lake was they're all three good contractors. I think they all did the job just sufficiently, but just Magni was just well positioned with the water treatment plant in town and trying to capitalize on any opportunities for savings and value, probably more than anything. So miscellaneous items. So as we're rolling into spring here, I do want to start looking at updating the capital improvement plan. So I like to do that annually, just so as we roll into budget season, we're adequately ahead of the curve a little bit. GIS, we did get some additional information on that for city staff to use. We added the construction as-built. So any construction plan that was provided, we scanned in. We created a project boundary. So when you pull up the map, it shows the project boundaries. You click on it, pulls the PDF. It's all digital now. So it's really handy tool instead of going to the closet and dusting off the plans.
Yeah.
So yeah. Lead service line, we did submit a budget to MDH to do that lead service line inventory. So the max ask is $75,000. We asked for $75,000. I think we can do our entire inventory for that. So we had some fluff in there. I think we'll be covered to do that. So we should see that contract in the next couple weeks. from the MDH, and then we can begin that. So we have to have the lead service line inventory submitted by, I think it's like October 15th or something like that. So, and then just an update for council, I'm sure you're all aware, but the East Range Water Board selected Bolton and Meg for construction services. So we'll be assisting moving that forward as well, so. Oh, go ahead.
I have one question. Last year, we were going to smoke test
Yes.
lines. Are we gonna do that this summer?
I can coordinate with staff. It hasn't came up in discussions lately, but yeah, we absolutely could.
Well, there's so many big things going on. It's small potatoes, but it was something that was in the works.
Yep. I think council approved that budget too.
Right.
I don't remember.
I'm pretty
specifically.
sure it was approved, but,
So,
you know, I just thought I'd mention it.
yeah, I'll revisit that with Luke.
Okay.
Josh or Luke? John here. On that waste treatment facility, you know, if we have $10 to $12 million in grant dollars secured, where's the differential going to come from, the extra 2 to 4 million?
So I know we're in the process of trying to position it for some additional funding. Luke, you're probably more in tune with that project, coordinating with Brian than I am. Maybe you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, so our max grant on that is going to end up being about 12 million, which puts our cost for the city at 3 million. That'll be a low interest PFA loan, you know, that 0 to 1% range, whatever the market kind of is dictating at that time. The other thing is that we have a bunch of debt that's falling off on the wastewater end about 2027. So the value of that loan most likely will be less than 3. We'll be able to just kind of swap that over for 1 to 1, you know what I'm saying? So there's going to be a bunch of debt that'll fall off that'll kind of help fill that gap for that $3 million loan.
Okay, thanks. So we're not necessarily looking at an increase there to close a gap, or we may be?
Yeah, but it's not going to be anything like the water plant by any means. So if we're looking at a $3 million loan and some of that debt falls off, that would just kind of be a 1 for 1. So we wouldn't have to raise any of the rates for that, whatever falls off. And then we did already raise it $3 a month. So we'll be able to tell once we get closer if that was, you know, helpful. What's going to be the big thing, John, is O&M, because there's a little bit of a plant, you know, it's going to be a little bit different because we have some different filters and whatnot. But I have told Brian the main goal of this is obviously to remove mercury. That's why we're doing it. But I want them to try and keep operation and maintenance costs down and as equal as to what we're running as much as possible, just to try and keep that down. So we're not trying to look at any technologies and do some things that's going to create some crazy operational costs. So, but I guess the best thing I could say is we're looking at a $3 million loan, and we're trying to keep that down as much as possible. So it will not be like the water plant.
Thanks.
Yep.
Any other agenda items or questions?
Magnet canceled? Ghosted?
I posted, I think. Lucas, did you hear from Magni Constructors?
No, I did not. I offered them the invite to show up if they had a staff that was available. So they didn't confirm, but they just said that they would look into it. I just was assuming they would be there, but I can't see you guys, but I can certainly hear you good. So if they're not in attendance, that's fine. I guess the other thing I'll say is if there's no questions on what Josh is proposing, if there was no other staff that's there, we probably should talk about the $70,000 land purchase that's on there, because this is going to be kind of new for some of you. Is there any questions or anything else that's going on, or should we just go right into that?
We can go right into that.
Okay.
Hey, Luke, I just had one other question. You know, on that central redesign, it said we got funded at 60,000 versus 80. I mean, is that just going to come out of the general fund, that 20,000 differential?
So when we put that budget together, we put a bunch of stuff in there, for like the Cadillac kind of plan. And because they didn't fund it, we're just gonna pull back a couple things and we'll be just fine. We budgeted enough to cover what we need to do this year. We just removed a couple things, that's all.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Okay, so with that, I guess I'll just move on to that land purchase. Where we're at right now, and Josh can kind of touch on this, is this came up because we've got sewer drainage. The goal obviously is to drain the industrial park by gravity. And we were looking at, once we found out that gravity does not work ideally without some directional boring at $800 a foot to run it through the water tower area, we looked at putting in a lift station. A lift station, of course, is not ideal because they cost anywhere from $500,000 to $700,000, and then you've got the monthly costs of electrical and power and whatnot. So we just kind of thought outside the box, and we looked at Canute Drive, and that water and sewer needs updating for those residents back there. The water line is cast. We have water breaks. That's kind of a hot spot area for us, a trouble spot. Also, the sewer's original. It's clay. It's so it could use some updating. So what we're looking at doing is taking the funds from the industrial park project, coming across the road and tying into that. This parcel that's back there that we're proposing to purchase is 22 acres. The HRA actually has owned it before. We're trying to develop the whole west end with the trailhead, with the industrial park, and now possibly housing down here for this. So I'm not quite sure how many houses would be in there. It would depend on lot sizes and whatnot. Maybe that's Josh's wheelhouse and he could touch on that. But we've reached out to the homeowner, and the plan is to use $66,000 in ARPA funds, which is the balance of what we have left, and then possibly up to another $4,000 of just general funds to purchase this land. We would double that down on IRRB grant, so they will count the money towards purchasing the land, and then we'll turn that into a grant to do a phase one out there, try and get it, whatever Josh would recommend or engineering firm would recommend to get that plotted, get it ready to get housing lots out there, and then we'd eventually, stub water and sewer lines into these houses. If you guys recall, last time we were at the IRRB when we got our funding, they said, come at us with housing, people need to bring us housing projects. So this is just a way of thinking outside of the box that we can make these IRRB industrial park dollars go farther. We can also fix utilities with some of that. We will have to fix the water line on some of our own account, but it's kind of a low hanging fruit kind of deal where we can really get a development area going inside of Aurora. So I guess I'll leave that for questions right now. I know we're running up against the clock. We've got about 5 minutes here, so.
The only thing I would build on that, so there is sewer out to the Blue Cross building. It's just too shallow. To get the depth we need on the sewer, we'd have to jack a pipe to basically Erie Street, where the sewer goes back to Shearings. We'd have to go all the way there with new sewer to get the depth we need. To open cut it, we'd be digging in front of the water tower, which we don't want to do, and so then you're looking at jacking, and just it'd be really expensive. Like Luke said, $800 a foot to jack on grade. So you're essentially pushing a casing and then sliding the pipe inside of it just to make sure you're keeping that on grade. So going south, we can catch grade pretty dang quick. So
Then we just bore underneath the road and send it under.
Yep.
Because that line behind Canute's has been broke many times over the years. I can remember. It's shallow in there, and
Yep.
that would be a good move, I think.
The other thing it opens up is we could potentially upsize the sewer too, because where we would hook on down at Central and Erie is a 12-inch versus out by Shearing it's an 8. And so while we might not have the wastewater plant capacity at the moment, we would at least have the sewer capacity if we had a user in the industrial park that would need that level of capacity. So we could run a 12 back from Erie to the industrial park versus at Shearings it's an 8. So it just opens up a lot more doors.
That makes sense.
And from an economics perspective, it's a wash. So in both certainly cheaper than a lift station, so.
Well, like Luke says, you got maintenance every year on that
Yep,
lift station. It's
Yep.
expenses every month.
yep.
Hey, Luke, would there be any assessments on any of the citizens that are out there now?
So we don't have a plan for any of that right now. I mean, we'll see what we can get done with the sewer line first on that. The water line, you know, we'll have to put a plan together on that. I mean, it would be on the table for you guys if you wanted to do that, or we could try and fund it. You know, we could maybe even look at CDBG funds or whatever. I don't know. We don't have a plan for funding the water line. And the other thing is the stubs to the lots. The new homeowners, you know, they could pay for that in their whack and sack fees. So for the new homeowners on that side, that would easily be accounted for in the lots. But I mean, John, honestly, anything's on the table for you guys. Whatever you guys wanted to do for funding, we put that plan together. So the other thing is, I guess I'll say, is that the utilities would run in the back, you know, of the houses and the lots. So you're not putting utilities underneath roads. So when we got to come back and put a road in there, you're not looking at all that cost. You're just looking at some stormwater, and you're looking at, you know, road. So it's gonna be significantly cheaper to try and get all that stuff done. So it's really the most bang for the buck. You combining all of these projects into one like this. So I guess to answer your question, John, it's up to you guys. You know, it's really up to the mayor and council and how we want to do that.
So then the city would maintain an easement then on the back of those, all the lot,
I
any
think
lots
we
that
have
would-
one there already.
There likely is one.
Huh?
There likely is one, yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
then,
think there's one
I mean, if
there
there's
already.
not, I'm paying to the attorney, but there's probably like a prescribed easement of some sort because you have utilities there,
Right.
so.
On the west side,
That would be on the north side of Canute,
South
on the
side.
south side of Canute Drive. I would think there would be one in there because we've been in there and fixed water lines and sewer lines, so I would
Oh,
think
you
we
got it.
we have an easement in there. Because
I mean,
we have a road access on the west side going in there. so.
And I think today the utilities are on the property you'd be purchasing, so if there's not, we'll get one road in there right
Right.
after we plat it,
Yeah.
so. I would ballpark probably 12 to 13 houses could fit, on each side of the road, so somewhere in there. That'd be like a 1/4 acre lot, 100 by 160. So,
What we would propose is doing like, you know, getting all of those lots filled first. And then once they're filled, we would do a phase 2 for the southern part of that, 22 acres, and try and stuff in water and sewer and whatnot after that. You wouldn't have to do the whole development at once.
so,
There is a nice natural loop in there though for the road where you'd come off of Canute Drive. And that would get cleaned up, and actually it has to get cleaned up anyways with the county highway project. And the road would just kind of come down through that T in there, and it would enter out on Erie Street. So we'd have a nice little L in there that we already own that as well. So nice road in, nice road out where you're not going to disturb anybody, and that intersection will get cleaned up with Highway 100.
Not only that, Luke, that must be a dead end line that's in there now, right, behind Canute?
Yeah, that's another good point, Richard. It is a dead end, and we would end up looping the water line
Right,
too when we
right.
go across the road.
Right. So, any other questions?